Hi, this is Dr. Rebecca Harwin for Conquer PCOS Naturally. Today we get to interview the PCOS warrior and author of the beautiful PCOS Journal, Melissa Christie, founder of PCOS Pathway. So welcome to our broadcast.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's so nice to be here. I really appreciate it.
One of the things I love about your story is that you are a woman with PCOS and that you've taken steps to dramatically change your well-being and your life. So I wondered if you'd tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Well, I was diagnosed in 2012, and right away, I mean, to be honest, I was kind of relieved when I got the diagnosis because I felt like, oh, this finally explains me and I can do something about it, you know? And so I really instantly just delved right into what I could do. And I spent the next few years exploring some different options, each kind of varying degrees of success. But then in 2015, I was traveling with my husband. And prior to traveling, I'd been using Ayurveda, which is traditional Indian medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd having some really great success with that. Like my cycle was down to a normal range. My ovaries were no longer polycystic. I'd had some good results. There was still a way to go though. But when we went traveling, I mean, we went backpacking for, almost a year, and I just couldn't take all these medicines with me. And so a few months into traveling, I was in China and my symptoms were pretty out of control, like worst ever kind of thing. Like my cycle was really long for me. I'd put on weight. My acne was pretty gross and I was super moody, like really like extremes. So I didn't feel good. I didn't feel healthy. And we were in China, so I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll check out Chinese medicine. And I managed to find this really great practitioner where we were, and she gave me this really strong brew of tea, and she knew we weren't going to be in China for long, and then we were going to fly to Nepal to go trekking. And we knew that the next month, or not the next month, sorry, I knew that sort of on my next cycle or the one after that, we'd want to start trying to conceive a baby. And we sort of wanted to conceive while we were traveling. And, but I needed to be healthier. And so she gave me this medicine and it just worked for me. I went straight to a 28-day cycle, which for me was unheard of. Like even when my cycle was good, it was never 28 days, like 5. And so that was really unheard of for me. I felt really good. We went trekking in Nepal. I kept taking it, and then in my next cycle, I was just super fortunate to I conceived right away. It was just, I had just been so lucky to find this medicine that really worked for me. And not to say that it would work for everyone else, we're all different, but it worked for me. And so we were quite elated. But then we continued traveling, and when we got to India, I had my first trimester in India, and it was a tough trimester. I was really, really sick, but at the end of it, at that 12-week scan, we found out that the baby had died. So it was, devastating, really, really devastating. And so we went through this kind of really intense experience and grief while in India, which was just so foreign to where we're from. And so I had to have surgery in India to remove the baby. And we considered coming home, but we just sort of realized, a friend kind of talked to me about it, and I realized that if we came home, it would have been such a sad reason to come home. And I didn't care about traveling anymore. I was just, of course, I was just shrouded in grief. But we decided we would keep traveling as it just seemed a bit nicer than coming home for such a sad reason. So we went on to Europe, and I was dealing with this grief, but I was also terrified, and other women who have PCOS or other fertility issues would totally relate to this. I'm sure I was really scared that this would happen to me again, because I knew I had probably miscarried because of my PCOS. I mean, we have almost twice the likelihood of miscarrying. And so I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to conceive again, and that if I did, that I would experience a miscarriage again. And so I very seriously wanted to heal my PCOS. You know, I'd always been quite serious about it, but this was just a whole other level. And because I was overseas, you know, I wasn't around my normal practitioners. And so in a way, I kind of had to fend for myself. I mean, I had the support of my wonderful husband, and also the doctors I had in India were wonderful. I mean, I couldn't. The doctor who did my surgery, she was just incredible and gave me fantastic advice. But I felt like I was really on my own to try and solve this. And so I delved really deep on the internet, and, you know, I quickly found that, you know, this was a few years ago, so it was different and things have come a long way. But there was a lot of misinformation out there. There was also, you know, not that much information out there. There were some great resources, but you really had to dig deep to find them and work out how to kind of to find them. And so I went on this massive healing journey and learnt so much about PCOS and about my own body. But there were, you know, there were things that I really wanted that I couldn't get. You know, there was support I wanted that I couldn't get. And I remember saying to my husband at the time, like, when I feel better, because I was still really grieving, when I feel better, I really want to contribute to changing this, because I think women with PCOS deserve better. Look how many of us there are, you know, and we're losing babies, you know, like this is a really serious condition and we need support. And so I really want to contribute to changing that. And, you know, I went on this massive healing journey, and I was very fortunate that 5 months later I conceived again. Right away, as soon as we started trying again, I was with the Chinese medicine. It just worked for me. And I went on to have my son. And having him just, I mean, I was grieving. It wasn't until after he was born, maybe a month or two after he was born, that I felt like I had come out the other side of my grief, really. And I was just flooded actually with so much motivation and determination. Like, you know, I look back and before I had a baby, and a lot of people say this, you know, what was I sort of doing with my time? I had that time now, because then you have a baby and you have, you know, you have the time while they're asleep, really. And
Yes.
so I became amazingly, like, efficient with my time. And I'd be like, let's do this. And I delved into creating PCOS pathways, and started thinking about what support tools that I wanted to make. And that's when I kind of came up with the idea of making the 2019 PCOS Journal. It's been a pretty amazing journey for me, because it's been really healing. But, you know, when I lost that baby, the really overwhelming feeling was that I felt like I had no purpose. It just felt like purpose had been stripped from me. And I knew in the back of my mind that that wasn't true. Of course I had purpose, but that was the feeling in my heart. And it, you know, going on to having my son, obviously purpose gets contributed to that experience when that happens. So, you know, creating this journal and PCOS pathways, that terrible experience, it really, it changed my whole life. It changed the course of my whole life. And now I'm connected with all these women with PCOS, and I'm part of this community, and, you know, I'm hopefully helping women in this community. So, yeah.
I saw that with your PCOS journey, you've also got a forum, a group on Facebook to give women that support. So part of this journey, what exactly do you accomplish with the website and with the book, and what are your aims?
I want women to feel empowered with knowledge. I want women to understand also the power of taking ownership of your health, because I've looked back on my journey and I've looked at where I was, so lost, so overwhelmed by my symptoms, so unsure of what step to take and what was affecting what, what my triggers were. I look back at that woman and I look at where I am now, and don't get me wrong, I am a work in progress. I still have PCOS. I still have symptoms that I'm working on, and it's, it can be up and down for me. But I look at where I am now, and even though I still have PCOS, I feel really strong. I feel really empowered. I feel like I'm in control of my health, and I have looked at what it is that has caused that for me. What are the changes that I've made? And the changes I've made is I have taken ownership of my health, and I've endeavored to understand the condition and understand my options. I mean, like I said to you, I've worked my way through a lot of different options. And so doing that has made me realize, like, God, there is not one answer. And I think we all know that, because
Absolutely.
we have something that works for someone else and it doesn't work for us. But I don't want them to lose hope when that happens to them, because if something doesn't work for you, in a way it's a good thing, because it means you can rule it out, and now you are honing in on what will work for you. And there are a lot of options, and a lot of women don't know that, and that's part of what I'm doing here. The journal is, it's a day planner, right? So, it's dated to 2019. You can record, appointments. It's like a normal day planner, but it's specific to PCOS, and it's filled with information about PCOS and about our treatment options.
Absolutely.
So I really want women to understand that, there's more than Western medicine. There's more than naturopathy. Both valid options. But did you know there's Ayurveda? Did you know there's Chinese medicine? Did you know the power of meditation and relaxation and mindfulness for PCOS? Do you know the power of yoga for PCOS? There's research supporting just how powerful yoga can be for PCOS. So I explore all these different options throughout the journal. And then, as you mentioned, I've created a Facebook group. It's a book club. It's called the PCOS Journal Book Club. And because the journal's dated to 2019, we're going to be reading the same information together, all of us. And so I thought it would be nice to have this place where we can go on that journey together, and we can explore those little tidbits of information a bit further, because I delve deep in some sections of the journal, but also scattered throughout the journal are just little tips, little bits of information about specific, herbs or supplements or drugs
Or yoga poses, or there's so much information in there. It's amazing. Even recipes that are suitable for women with PCOS.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And so in the book club, I want to delve a bit deeper, so say there's a yoga pose that's in the journal, I'll share a little video about how to actually do that pose rather than just the image. So I guess I'm trying to create a community where we can really build each other up and, talk about this knowledge that is within the journal. And I think that's the most powerful thing we can do is understand our options, and also understand our own bodies. That's the other half of this whole journal and this whole project and journey for me, is enabling women to understand their own body, their own triggers. It's funny, like I got sent the journals from the printer maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and they're dated to 2019, but I use one of them ever since I got it. I just cross out the date. And I have found really interesting triggers within myself just from using this journal. I've found that there's lots of little nurturing tips throughout the journal, and one of them is to put a hot water bottle kind of over your lower abdomen. And so I read that and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'll try to do that. And I've found that when I do that, between when I get my period to when I ovulate sooner than if I don't consistently do it. It's something that really helps me, and it's just a little thing, but it sort of helped me to realize that. And another thing, a really big thing I've realized, is that my type of PCOS stress really is a big contributor for me. And when I say stress, I don't just mean like a busy day. I mean the kind of tenseness that you get in your body when you're stressed. I was talking about this the other day with someone else. I actually have found that if I watch like an intense movie or a scary movie and you kind of sit there for 2 hours kind of like tense, like it's like a thriller and you're on the edge of your seat, it delays ovulation for me.
Wow. It makes sense. I mean, when you look at stress and the hormonal underpinnings, they look so much like PCOS. We get a decrease in sex hormone binding globule, reduction in fertility, and increase in insulin resistance. They're so linked, people don't realise. And one of the things I see in slender women with PCOS is that they are always stressed. So they don't fit into the normal category, I guess, because they're not overweight. But they tend to be really petite and so stressed. So with you and your experience, what do you find is the best things that help you deal with stress?
Well, now that I'm very aware of that, how that tenseness is affecting me, like not just that busy stress, but that physical kind of reaction. I'm very aware of that now, and I breathe. I actually just try and like take a deep breath. It's the tenseness for me is really in my stomach. I'm a singing teacher actually, and so we very much use our diaphragm to support our breath, and so I'm really sort of aware of that sort of tightness in your stomach that can happen, and so for me it's about letting that tightness out of my belly. Taking a nice deep breath is really important for me. There's something else I was going to mention that I just thought of. I just lost it.
That's okay, that happens.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about feeling the stress in your gut, because another thing I've seen clinically is that basically there's not many definite rules around PCOS because it is so broad and there's so many different experiences and symptoms women have. But one of the things I've seen probably most constantly other than stress is gut issues. So digestive problems are so super common. Do you have any of those problems?
Well, you know what? I've only just recently been paying more attention to that. And again, it actually comes from using my journal. And one of the things that I track in my journal, because you can track all your symptoms, is I've been tracking my digestion. And I've been seeing some issues with it, which I hadn't thought about before. And so something that I've actually implemented, it's a new habit that I'm trying to implement. I've only been doing it for a couple of months. I learned that it takes your body a good 90 minutes after eating to kind of clean out. I can't remember if it's the small or large intestine, but kind of to clean out your intestine. And if you eat in that 90 minutes, that kind of gets put on hold and it has to wait. And I was sort of in this bad cycle where, like, I live in a hut. It's one room. The bed's in the same room as the kitchen. It's just one spot. So I'm always in my kitchen. At home mom, so I'm always here. And I just found in the afternoons I was just like constantly snacking. And even if the snacks were healthy, it was just that I wasn't getting through 90 minutes without having something in my mouth. And so I have implemented this new kind of habit for myself where I leave that gap. I try to go at least 2 hours, and it's become very easy to do that. And that's for my gut health, and I feel so much better. My digestion's improved, and I feel like I have more energy. And I've always attributed that energy issues kind of to my PCOS. So it's really interesting to kind of work with both of them. And I remembered what I was going to say just before. Back with the stress, cortisol is a stress hormone that's super powerful. I'm sure you know all about it. Where and it really can be attributed to a lot of our PCOS symptoms. And women with PCOS, a lot of women with PCOS have higher levels of cortisol, and it's released when you feel really a lot of stress. And back in the day, it would be like, oh, there's a tiger, cortisol gets released, adrenaline's released, and you kind of, you survive. Yeah. But now we're sort of sitting at our desks, and we've got deadlines happening, and we're sitting there typing, like stressing out. But when cortisol gets released, it releases, I think the way it works is it releases like blood sugar, and so you need to burn that blood sugar off. It's allowing you to have more energy so that you can survive, stressful scenario. But all we're doing is sitting at our desk, so our blood sugar levels rise. We're not doing anything with it, and it's floating around, and then it's causing insulin resistance, and then higher testosterone levels, and all this stuff. So one thing that I've been doing to try to remedy this, if I feel like something stressful happens to me, and I bet my cortisol levels are up right now, I actually just try to do a little bit of exercise.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I'm not always in the position to, but like I said, I'm a stay-at-home mum, so often I'm just out here, and if something like that happens, I'll just even just run on the spot, or I'll just jog around the house a little bit, like I'll just get active.
Good. That's
just
great
to
advice.
burn that. I don't know. I haven't really read that's what you should do. But that's how I feel. That's what I feel I should do.
No, I think you're spot on. Like you said, when you get stressed, you release hormones, and that increases insulin resistance, so that you keep the blood sugar in your bloodstream, so you can escape. But again, like you said, you don't escape because stress is constant. So rather than short term, it's very long term. So one of the things I used to get patients to do is pretty much what you said: run up and down on the spot, kick, scream, like tell that tiger that you're fighting it off. And that helps so many people. So I think that's wonderful advice. And another thing that I pick up from what you're saying is that lots of little tips make a huge difference. And if you've got a diary like this, a journal where you can track those tips and take note of your symptoms, you can really, identify what makes that difference for you, because we all are so different.
That's right. That's exactly right. And, because there's so many tips in there, there's options, because I think it's about finding what has an effect on you, what improves your PCOS, but it's also about finding what you enjoy, because you want things to be sustainable. And so, if you try putting a hot water bottle on your abdomen every night and you just hate it, you're probably not going to keep it up. But, you can find something else in there that you might enjoy doing at that time of the night or something. Because I think for me with, habits, this is really a tried and tested way of forming habits is, you attach them to a routine or a different habit. For example, I've more recently been doing some like abdominal massage, and if I just said to myself, okay, you want to do that every day, I would probably forget half the time.
Yeah.
So I actually integrated it into my routine. So in the evening, we have dinner, and then I have a shower with my 2-year-old, and then my husband dresses him and then reads to him. And I have these few minutes while he's reading to him where I usually just like on my phone or something. But now I take that few minutes to lie on the couch and give myself this massage, and that's really working for me.
That's great.
Integrated into my routine, so it's much easier to maintain. So yeah, the journal, it gives a lot of little tips like that, so you can find what works for you.
Absolutely. And so talking about abdominal massage, because we have increased levels of inflammation, and inflammation can cause scar tissue. And one of the reasons that we can get with pain in our pelvic area is because of the inflammation. I think that abdominal massage is a wonderful thing to do. And like you said, it doesn't have to take forever. I mean, there's options like Mayan massage, but you can also do it yourself. So other than what we've already talked about, is there anything that you'd really advise women with PCOS to do? Any approaches, any different ways of thinking, any ways to get started if they're really way back at the beginning and don't know much about PCOS? Is there anything that you've done or seen that's really made a massive difference in how you achieve results?
Yeah. I could talk about this for so long. One thing that I would definitely say is, we've all got a story to tell about, being treated poorly by our healthcare practitioners. And it can really bring you down and make you feel very alone, because the person who's supposed to be helping you doesn't, or they fat shame you, or they tell you you're never going to have children. There's a lot of misinformation coming from our healthcare practitioners, and it's holding us down. So something that I really would stress is to take ownership of your health, rise above that, and absolutely keep looking for a good practitioner, because having a good practitioner in your life, I think, is life-changing.
It is. Yeah, well said.
Yeah, it's another brain that can help you, and it's support. It's someone who's sort of, going to bat for you and who has ideas about how to help you. But you've got to keep finding, you've got to keep looking, because no doubt you'll go to one and then they won't be what you need. But don't let that sort of stop you. Keep looking, and another thing is, which I did already talk about a little bit, is just really seek that knowledge. Seek the knowledge of the different modalities that are available to you, and follow your gut. Like, read about Ayurveda, read about Chinese medicine, read about naturopathy, and if something really like piques your interest, like that's a sign. Do that. Do that. Book a practitioner in that field and see what it's like and explore it. And if it doesn't end up working out for you, it's okay. You just narrowed the field, go find another one. So that's a big tip for me, is really just drawing on that strength within yourself to keep looking for a good practitioner. In terms of more like sort of little specific tips, I think one of the best things that I've done for myself is I've stopped eating after dinner. There's nothing new about that. That's an old thing to say. It's a very predictable thing to say, but it's a good
Not
one.
really. Lots of women don't do it. I mean, there's a thing called nighttime eating syndrome, where people will try so hard to be good the whole day and then eat a loaf of white bread at night. So it's actually really good advice.
Yeah, no, that was me. And back in February, it's funny, in February, I made all these changes. And, like I said to you, some things you don't enjoy and some things are hard to stick to. And I fell off every single one of them, except that I stopped eating after dinner. And it's just a part of my life now. I can't see myself ever going back. It's like a very sustainable lifestyle change. So yeah, I think that's a big one. Another one, which I think is massive, but this is a goal for me. I'm not doing this right now, and I think it's actually very detrimental to my health. Is going to bed at a decent time. Go to bed by 10 or 11 latest. I know some people have got, they're shift workers and that's just not possible. But for them, I just really recommend decent, good quality sleep when you can. I mean, I read something recently, I can't remember how long ago it was. It might have been back in the 1920s. Like, it was a while ago, but not that long ago. Our average sleep for humans was 8 to 9 hours a night. And now our average sleep is closer to 6 to 7 hours a night.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big change for a species that hasn't evolved much.
Exactly. That's right. And when I was just writing an article on this yesterday, and when you look at, I mean, again, this is well known for ages, but a deficiency in sleep increases insulin resistance and weight gain, for example, and of course stress. So all of these things that come from one habit contribute to all of the hormonal changes. And that's one of the great things about your book and what you're saying, is that one habit can change so many things. So I completely agree. Aiming for sufficient sleep is a really great idea.
I think it's important, and I really want to be practicing what I do.
It's a bit hard when you're a mum.
It's hard when you're a mom, and I mean, I'm working on this journal, and I'm already starting work on the next one, and I work to sort of 10 o'clock at night doing that, and then I kind of have an addiction to the TV show Suits, and I just watch it. I watch it and I stay up till midnight. And so anyway, that's a big goal. It's a big goal for me to let that go and get to bed.
Yeah, it also shows we've all got, like you said before, we're all on this journey and we've all got stuff to improve on. And even people who've been on a journey for me, I think, 25 years now, there's still so much to learn. So how can people get your PCOS journal, and how can they follow you and contact you if they'd like some more support?
Yeah, great. You can get the journal from my website, which is www.pcospathways.com/shop. And I've journal there in a few different ways. You can buy, the physical journal. I've also got a digital version now. It's not digitally editable, but it enables you to download it. You get it instantly, and you can print it out. You can print the whole thing, or you can print it in 3-month blocks. And it's a more affordable option. I've got a lot of followers in, some poorer countries, and I really wanted to sort of create something that was more accessible for them, because shipping is pretty expensive, isn't it? And then I've also got a bundle pack, which is really nice. So yeah, definitely check that out. You can follow me on Facebook. It's just for facebook.com/PCOS Pathways. On Facebook, I've also got 2 groups. I've got the PCOS Journal Book Club, and that's what it's called. You can just search for that. And I've also got the Empowered Women with PCOS group, which is where we just, if we find any really interesting article or research online, we kind of all sort of share it there, so that we're just really building each other up with knowledge, so that we can feel really strong and empowered and take ownership of our health.
Absolutely. And how can people find that? How can people find that?
As well. So just search for Empowered Women with PCOS, and it's a Facebook group.
Awesome.
And it's on Instagram at PCOS Pathways.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for your time and for your help and for your advice. And we'll look forward to sharing this with all of the women with PCOS out there.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's a real honour to talk with you. You've done so much for the community, so thank you.
Pleasure.